Welcome to another edition of A Chat With. I'm your host, Sam Macbeth, and with me is former Much Music VJ host and host of BT in Edmonton, plus the author of a great brand new book, A Happy Has Been, my guest, Bill Wylenchka. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me. It's going to be fun. It better be.
It's going to be something. I'm not sure what, but it's going to be something. Now, when you got into this crazy business of entertainment, you got in behind the scenes as a video editor at Much Music. How did you go from video editor to host of a country show, and don't think I didn't know, called Outlaws and Heroes? How did that come about?
I got hired at Much as an editor the week I graduated from college, from Seneca College. It was a 2-year radio and television program. I thought I was the happiest guy in the world getting, a job in the industry that I chose the week I graduated. And part of that job when I started there was to dub a lot of the videos that were coming in from the record companies, usually on 1-inch videotape, and I would dub them for the Much Music library on Betacam. And we were getting in a lot of country music videos. I became a huge country fan a couple of years previous, in 1986, my first year of college. It was the year that Randy Travis, Dwight Yoakam, and Steve Earle all put out their debut records. It was part of the new traditionalism movement in country music. Prior to that, it was, Kenny Rogers, a lot of Barbara Mandrell, a lot of watered down country. And these cats came along and represented certain eras within country that were authentic, that were beautiful. And I became a big country fan. I was into alternative at the time. No one I knew listened to country. So to me, it was alternative music in a way. And I submitted a proposal for a country show. One ended up going up on the air and featuring all these country music videos that were being played, we were getting but weren't being played. And I got asked to work on that show. I helped edit and produce it, and eventually started co-hosting and then hosting it with Denise Donlin, who later became the director of music programming. So she stepped away from on-air duties. I ended up hosting that full time. And then when CMT came to Canada, they felt a 90-minute weekly show, country music show, couldn't compete with a whole new network. So they transferred me to regular flow VJing. And that would have been 94. And this whole time, to this day, I'm still involved with television. I have a full-time job in television here in Kingston at Global Television, but I still love producing. I still love editing. Never walked away from editing. I love it.
And that's the beautiful thing. When you get the chance to get a project and to edit it, it's basically your fingerprints on it in the end, and it's something that you can look back on and go, I did that. No, really, I did that. That's me.
I credit Much Music for allowing me to do it. I don't think there was a station in the world that would allow someone to, as an example, go to Switzerland, interview Shania Twain, come back and edit and produce the hour special, sit in on the post-production, hand deliver the tape to master control in some cases. I was there every step of the way. And because that's my background, is editing and producing. The on-air stuff to me was a fun bonus almost. But yeah, all my hour specials that I did eventually for Much More Music too. To this day, I still edit and produce my own features. And to me, it's all part of the same world because I love television. It's all I've ever known.
Yeah, and one of the beautiful things was you have done an amazing 5,000 plus interviews. So I'm not going to give you the pat question of who's your favorite, what's your favorite memory. We're not going to go into that because I know there's 5,000 memories that you have.
Some of them are gone.
Unfortunately, but not in your head.
Brain cells, that
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad decisions, that sort of thing.
Everyone makes them.
Yep. I have that problem too.
Yeah.
Now for me, I'm kind of new at the interviewing game. I'm basically a typical just an MC type guy. I actually started off in strip joints introducing the lovely Laverne and, you know, that sort of thing. And
I met her. Yeah.
yeah, she's quite the little worker, we'll call her that. But to see the way that you were doing some of the interviews with some of the people that you're doing the interviews with, was there ever a moment when you just inside you were just like geeking out totally while you were being professional outside?
Oh man, of course. In the book, I talk about perfect circles, and that is, you know, being a huge fan of music from kindergarten. I had older brothers, and I was listening to their records, David Bowie and Rod Stewart and CCR, Zeppelin. And so I grew up loving music from a very young age. And in high school, it became a badge for me. You know, having Led Zeppelin's patch on my jean jacket or Ozzy Osbourne's pin on my jean jacket, pictures of Robert Smith of The Cure in my locker, or, you know, posters of Judas Priest on my bedroom wall. And eventually, starting at Much and working there over the years, I have interviewed and spent time with, sometimes traveled with, every single one of my musical heroes and then some. You know, I became a huge fan of Oasis and got to hang out with them a number of times and do a couple of hour specials with Liam and Noel. And it's not until they leave the room where you think, man, I have the best job in the world. That was cool. During the interview, yeah, you're a professional, you got a job to do, you got to get stuff out of them
Exactly.
and be engaging and engage them and hopefully give them an experience that they haven't had before in terms of being interviewed and make it pleasant for them, make it pleasant for the viewer, especially if it's live, anybody that's gathered around the studio or the environment at that time. So yeah, a big checklist of, you know, what I want to accomplish with every interview. And so yeah, it was the best job in the world. Still is, being in TV, but I've never taken it for granted, and I'm always humbled by the fact that 20 years later, someone will come up to me and comment on an interview that they still have or they saw recently or that they remembered. And like, wow, that's the freaking coolest.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about your job at the time wasn't that you were in a studio doing an interview with a Garth Brooks, a David Grohl, a a Liam Gallagher, or whoever it would happen to be. You were in the lobby of Much Music with thousands of fans there as well, screaming and calling and enjoying. How was that experience for you as a reporter? Like that had to be kind of tough sometimes.
It's sometimes it works really well. Having fans in the studio adds to a magic to the experience. I would think for the viewer, it looks exciting and frantic, and it creates good television, especially if it's live. Some of the problems, though, with having so many people gathered around an interview is they scream a lot. It's true. It doesn't matter what the interviewee would say. There's screams and there's applause, and you can't really get into heavy subject matter in a situation like that, because the artist can't hear sometimes. If it's an I and it's Janet Jackson or Prince, sometimes you come out of a break and you welcome back Prince, and the applause is going on for 3 minutes and Prince can't hear you. So at times it's exciting. At other times, some of my favorite interviews were away from the station, taped interviews, maybe on the road, where you had time to let the artist breathe and they could think and offer things that they probably couldn't offer in that live, frantic situation. But it does make great visuals and it does look like amazing TV when you see 2,000 people outside the building, for sure.
Now, I talked to Rick Campanelli, the
Good
temp.
guy. I love him.
Love the man, and
Yeah.
a good old Hamilton boy to boot. And we were talking about the magic that was that era for video music and for music in general. Would you say that that cannot be duplicated? That was
They'll never.
that was just like an explosion that can only happen once.
It was a convergence of a number of things. I think with the advent of the format of cassette tapes moving to CDs, everyone was buying CDs to update their collection. Record companies were spending money on artists and fostering talent. And if they didn't have a hit in the first album, maybe the second album, they were spending lots of money promoting their artists. We were getting in videos all the time. The Canadian music industry was better than it ever was. There was a convergence of what Much Music was doing and playing, country music in the early 90s, hip hop, rock, pop, folk, alternative. It was so cool and so magical. And the way Much Music presented music as well. It wasn't just here's a music video. Denise Donlin introduced a drive for relevance, which, issue oriented programming, talking to LGBTQ youth, giving them a platform and welcoming them into the party, talking about literacy, talking about all these things that an entertainment channel just wouldn't normally do. And it was magical and it was creative and it was beautiful. And yeah, no amount of money or creativity could recreate what was going on at 299 Queen Street West in the 90s up until the early 2000s. And some people blame YouTube, the fact that you can just, watch any music video you want and it's going to be there on YouTube. Why bother to wait for it to come on Much Music? I agree with that, but I also tend to agree with people miss interviews. People miss good interviews. Everything now is about a soundbite on a red.
I miss live and unpredictable.
Yeah, who are you wearing? And entertainment television now is who's got cellulite, who's in rehab. You might get a 10-second soundbite from them rolling through the airport in LA or something. And that's not entertainment. That's not entertainment journalism to me. And I miss interviews where, again, you can let it breathe and it was more than a 10-second soundbite. And I know people miss that too because I put up a lot of these things on my YouTube channel and they get thousands and thousands of views. And so I think there is a need for it. I think people miss it, but I don't think you can recreate what Much Music was doing back then.
And that's exactly where we go now to now. A lot of the people that are our next generation, the young people of today, they didn't have a chance to live that experience except for a beautiful little documentary that has just come out on Much Music by Hamilton's own Chaminade. And you are taking part in some of the touring for the documentary. Tell us a little bit about the documentary and how you are involved in it.
I got asked to be interviewed for it by Sean a couple of years ago, and I asked him, "Well, who else is doing interviews?" And there was a good list there: Michael Williams, Rick, Erica M. There was Christopher. Christopher Ward wasn't interviewed for it, no, but he had access to the Much Music library and was digitizing all these videos and all these interviews, and I just loved his excitement for the project. That it was contagious, and I said, "I'm sure I'll be interviewed. Love it." And so now it's come out. It's the Toronto premiere was a month and a half ago, sold out Roy Thompson Hall. That was a beautiful day just because I got a chance to see people I haven't seen in 20 years. Not just on air people, but behind the scenes people too showed up. And it was remarkable. It was beautiful. And I've done 3 of the dates. I love the Q&As after with the audience, and that has come up a lot with parents who have kids now when they say, I've tried to explain it to my kids what Much Music was, and they really don't get it. And it is hard to explain. I think you have to see the doc. But one of the things that I notice about music fans now is I mentioned earlier how music was so important to me in grade school and high school, and it became a badge. I don't see that with young people these days,
No.
where they have a band or they have favorite bands or a scene or whatever, and that's how they're identified with. I don't see that, and in high
Yeah,
school,
you're right.
I was into Led Zeppelin, I was into heavy metal, and when you saw me coming down the hallway, you knew I liked that stuff. And then you go through phases, alternative, goth, and yeah, and I don't see that these days. And kids, I sound like an old man when I say that, I'm sorry. Young people don't have that wonderment of seeking out new music, I don't think, and discovering a band, which is totally exciting. And they also don't have that thrill of cracking open a CD, or in some, vinyl now is doing a little bit of a resurgence. But when your favorite band was going to come out with a new disc, and you went to HMV and you bought it, and you took that disc home, you cracked open the plastic, put it on, poured over the liner notes, the lyric sheet, looked at the pictures. It was an experience. It was a beautiful experience that
Exactly.
you got into it on a cerebral level, on an emotional level with music. And now it's background music to stream while you're doing dishes, it seems, for the most part.
Yeah, and that's why with the radio station, as station manager, I was allowed to pick the genre. And I took 70s and 80s for that exact reason. Opening the album, living the music, enjoying the music, being part of the music. And like you said, it's not the same like that anymore. But with the documentary, it's giving the younger people an opportunity to see it. How have the shows gone over that you've been to? Have they been exciting shows? Has it been a
Is
receptive crowd?
thunderous applause when it's over. And it's funny because, again, I love the Q&As. I love meeting the people, and often after the Q&A in the lobby of the theater or the hall, just standing around and talking to people, and they want a picture, they want to, they bought a book and they want me to sign the book for them, and it's amazing. And sometimes there's tears from these people, and they talk about what much music meant to them and how they couldn't wait to get home, and they had their favorite VJ or their favorite artist, and we were in their lives in a pretty big way, for lengthy periods of time in their lives. And in some cases, I've been told that they grew up watching us, and what a fortunate, beautiful position to be in on the receiving end of that. And there's hugs, there's always hugs, and what a beautiful position for me to be put into, to hear these stories and to reach out and say thank you for watching, thank you for being there. And if you say much music meant a lot to you, well, I understand, because it meant a lot to me too.
Yeah, and I go all the way back to the greatest host Much Music has ever had. The very best, the greatest. Nobody could touch him. You guys were wonderful, but you guys couldn't touch this guy. Chuck the security guard. That's how far back I go. When Much Music was on late night, Friday and Saturday only for the late night.
City
That's how far
limits.
back. Yeah, I go back
Yeah.
that far. And I loved watching when Much Music got launched. I watched how it grew. I loved watching Test Pattern. I loved watching, Al TV,
Mm.
Renell's shows. I loved watching the shows that you guys were doing, the interviews, the music, everything to me was an escape. And
Yeah.
and I got to thank you guys for that.
Oh man, a pleasure. Thank you. And I talk about it in the book, how music is entertainment for the most part, but to me, it runs deeper than that. It has been a friend. I wasn't just on TV interviewing rock stars. I was going home listening to music as well, and going to shows every week. And music was a good friend, and it saved me many times. And when I meet like-minded people like that at these shows, and you just see how music affects them and elevates them, um, that was our audience. That was me as well.
Yeah, and speaking of the book, what do you say we talk a little bit about the book now? It is called A Happy Has Been, and it is currently out, and we'll talk about how to get the book in a couple of moments. Um, but something very cool about what you're doing is part of the proceeds are going to a charity which is White Ribbon Campaign, and there's other various women's shelters across Canada that are going to benefit from the proceeds to the book. So
Thanks for asking about that, Sam.
congratulations.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
how did you pick those charities?
Jeff Martin from the Tea Party got me involved in the White Ribbon Campaign back in the mid 90s. He asked me to MC the annual White Ribbon concert. And it was a house band, and it was June during Canadian Music Week. So all these male rock stars were taking turns singing leads in different songs. It was at the Phoenix Club every year, and there were silent auctions, and he helped organize it. And the White Ribbon Campaign basically is men coming together to end men's violence against women. It started in Toronto, and now it's in like 75 countries around the world. And a lot of these countries don't have a lot of women's rights. And so I just love the idea that guys can join together and talk to guys about this, because this is how it's going to end, hopefully. And, you know, the Tea Party put out Release, and Jeff Martin wrote that after watching a documentary. Sorry, after watching a documentary on the rights of women around the world. And yeah, it's just, and I was raised by a single mom, and so I know the importance of having strong female role models in my life, I think. And in Ottawa, I helped organize a concert for 4 different area women's shelters that were underfunded and overflowing. And so partial proceeds of the book are going to go to the White Ribbon Campaign, and an organization that encompasses women's shelters across Canada. And it's very simple. It's these guys go into schools. Sometimes, you know, in grade 3, little Johnny might see daddy slap mommy and grow up thinking that's normal. And it's a chain that has to break. And these guys go into schools and present a new look on what masculinity is to these young men. And hopefully they break the cycle and realize that any kind of violence against women is just wrong. It's not right. It's not cool. And they provide an alternative look at what men should be. And I'm a huge fan of what they do.
And that is so cool. So when people buy the book, they're not only helping out a wonderful cause, they're also getting a very entertaining book. Tell us a little bit about the book itself.
It'd be so easy to make this book an old guy talking about the past, going, let me tell you about the time I interviewed David Bowie and Madonna, Mick Jagger. Um, there is an element of that. There are lots of stories in there. Um, Again, lots of stories of that perfect circle. And there's also some life lessons in there as well, things that I've learned over the years. It talks about celebrity, it talks about pop culture. I haven't heard one bad thing about the book. The only bad thing I've heard is an online review from one person that said, my only complaint about the book is that I wish it was longer. So maybe a second edition.
I
I've
was going
already
to
started
say,
making
maybe you could
notes.
do a second volume.
I've already started making notes. Enough has happened since the release in August till now, with the doc and the touring the doc and all these book signings, and talking to people. Enough has happened that I would like to put out a second edition maybe next year. I'll talk to
Now,
the publisher.
now speaking of the book signings and being able to order the book and that sort of thing, we'll get to ordering the book in just a minute. But for those people who want to get out and actually go and pick up a physical copy at their local bookstore, you will be doing some book signings coming up in the next little while. One that I know of for sure is this Sunday. You will be in Belleville at Chapters from 12 noon, doing a book signing.
Right.
And then I believe you will be doing some in Kingston as well. Can you tell us a bit about those?
December 2nd at Novel Idea, a great independent bookstore. It's a landmark here in Kingston. That's on Princess Street. That'll be from noon till 3. And then the following Saturday, I believe, Nexus Gaming and Comics, a book signing there. And I've spent pretty much every weekend for the past 2 months going to Chapters or Indigo all over Ontario for book signings, and they've been great. The book is available at retail all across Canada. If you want to order it from the publisher, if you want to order it from Amazon, if you want to order it from me, I can send you a signed copy. All the information is at billwylenchka.ca. Just my name, no spaces, billwylenchka.ca. And there's links to my YouTube channel of some favorite interviews and some of the book signing moments as well. And for anyone that has gotten it, thank you so much. It means the world to me. I'm not going to retire from this, mind you. It wasn't about the money. It was just about being asked for years and years about a book, and finally I could say, here it is. Enjoy. Thank you.
And that's the thing. A lot of people are going to enjoy it. And I'm not sure if it's going to be feasible in your schedule or not, but we are doing a charity event in February in Caledonia and in Hamilton. The Hamilton show is a charity show where we're going to feature a stand-up comedian and a Elvis tribute artist, and all the proceeds are going to Stop Concussions Foundation, which is a foundation that researches head injury and concussion, and is run by former German pro hockey player Kerry Goulet. And it's going to be a great show. And if you are available, we would love to have you come on by, sign some books before the show, meet some people, make a little bit more money for White Ribbon and the other fine charities. If you are available, I'll send you the information. And
Well, if you
we'll see what we
want,
can do.
yeah, email me. You have my email. I'll certainly send you a signed copy. If I can't make it, maybe you can put that on the auction table. Would love to help out in any way I can. And I want to shut things down in December so I can sleep a little bit. But then, yeah, the Chapters Indigo tour continues in 2024. I think in April. Some of the dates are coming in now. So the 401 West Corridor, I'll be doing that in April as well. So, yeah, on the road pushing the book and meeting a lot of beautiful people.
Now, here's a very out there question that I'm going to ask you now, as we are getting to the end of this interview. Generally, when I interview somebody, I just actually did an interview with Andy Kim for his Christmas show. And at the end of the show, at the end of it, I played Rock Me Gently. I talked to Al Harlow from Prism, played a song off his album. Now, is there a favorite song that Bill Wylenchka has that fits in the 70s and 80s genre that you really like, that I'm going to play at the end of this interview?
How about the Kings switching to Glide? Does that fit in
You
there?
got it. That is actually a good one. And
Love those
you
guys.
talked